Corruption is a vile disease that sucks and drains the health out of something good. Corruption in society is an evil moral infection that keeps community in the state of perpetual sickness. Corruption is a moral virus. It's so potent it leaves its host sick, lethargic, and unable to realize and accomplish all that a well person can. Where corruption thrives, poverty and not prosperity thrives. Wealth is grabbed into the greedy, grubby hands of those who get fat on the toil and labor of good people. Corruption benefits, only temporarily, those who participate in it. Everyone else is a victim of the theft, the deceit, the dishonesty, and the lies that corruption feeds on. You need to know that a corrupt person is stealing from you. Corruption is filthy work and despicable acts of treachery done under the table and behind closed doors. Corruption is a disgusting shame. Corruption keeps a nation back from true development and from progress. Wise investors steer clear of a corrupt environment. They would rather put their resources into a place where the playing field of opportunity is equal for all and not bent towards feeding the financial lust of corrupt, lying, cheating, thieving politicians and government officials. How many wonderful development projects have been lost because the investors didn't want to do business in a swamp of evil? When those great projects go to another nation or to some other place, we all lose. Believe me when I tell you that corruption steals from you, it steals from all of us. Corruption plunders the nation's wealth. Corrupt people compromise on truth, equity, and fairness, choosing instead to feed off the short-term benefits of crookedness, exploitation, and financial perversion. Corruption is not just a personal matter. It's a culture. It's a way of life, not just for individual people, but for companies, communities, governments, and nations. Corrupt nations, hiding behind large companies, will seek to invest in other weak nations in order to take over the assets of the nation that they've invested into. They will provide financial loans to a nation for the much needed infrastructure, and they will do it with assets that they provide. They will sign contracts by lining the pockets of rotten government officials who participate in this kind of corruption and are then held hostage by their own deceit and greed. Corruption is nothing less than a form of theft and national robbery. A corrupt person steals from everyone in society.
Wagwan family, how you guys doing? Man has enough respect. Things now go on good yard, you know. Just not go on good at all. It seems as if the government want to continue with them corruption and they don't want to stop. Don't want to be held accountable, gentle people, must I tell you. And it is disgraceful, despicable, disgusting, distasteful, and disastrous for any country. When I talk about your all up democratic country, I try all up the rule of law. So now we are breaking news now. We cannot touch upon it this morning with you guys. This brother Yasso. Holness wants law probing illicit enrichment declared unconstitutional. That means nobody want that in the Integrity Commission Act. You want to court for judge take it out or something. I don't know if try to, you know. Remember, you know, him go see the PNP create this thing named Integrity Commission Act. Right? It's like the PNP then maybe have no time or something like that to implement it. Them left office. I don't know if them probably wait till them come back to implement it. Such man see it. Think it was a good piece of machine for drive pan and for boss round town. Right? And to others. Now, when it's time for responsibility, him a run, go to court. So if nobody want the part in the Constitution where I try to hold him accountable, I want to hear me and say, people. Tax Administration of Jamaica also, the IC yet to hear from them to see if them collect what them send them, if they receive it, or if them start on an investigation. So IC yet to hear from Tax Administration of Jamaica and request for further review of probe into PM's financials. Jamaica corrupting the people. I want corrupt. No, it's not the people them. A politician of the place corrupt. Now that we have see social media showing everything clear as day, everything will come out plain as day to all of us to see. Spread out on social media, on granny phone, on granny smartphone, for everybody to see, for the little youth them smartphone. What a time we're living in. People, I'll be right back.
Yeah, you know. Back is not supposed to come and dance. No, back supposed to go. Back supposed to come out of car and go straight in a police. You must see. Where they are there? Come on, man. When a fool. At the 8th election, I run. I never see this yet. Oh, joking thing on the pan. See if you are back in there, any feeling where you want to put your box in there, put in the president officer, carry them out. I want to know about
Junior,
why not?
come here, sir.
Diane, where you there?
I go for box to that, sir.
Them police, yeah. The presiding officer got back. Me never see boxer ground, boxer going in a EOJ. Me downstairs. Me don't want nobody touch me. Me want to box them. Go in the office. Me not supposed to box them that ground.
Yeah, get that.
Me not in a this.
Yeah, let's try to get to the one. Go, but if you fool,
the box them. Come on, take box them from me. Nobody than you box them. No answer. I'm a tell council don't sell me down without the
Family, when you hear what I go on? When you hear what I go on? People, pure corruption I go on, and the man them don't want to stop, you know. Because I see if the man say, all right. Social media there now, everything, me understand, so we get exposed. Make we stop. No people, them double down. No, this piece of machinery, when Mr. Simit, Mr. Finger Simit, Dr. Finger Simit, let me put some title on it. Pick up and say, Ima go implement it and run it, right? Because, like I told you, it was all about looking good in an international eyes, international community eyes. Like we have integrity because the country was in the hole when it comes to the corruption index. So I thought this was a good idea to jump on this piece of machinery called the Integrity Commission Act, where Mark Golden and Portia and all them in the PNP then put together, right? So he did that and put it in 2017 when he come in, right? Remember, that 2016 he came in 2016. So 1 year later, he pick up the piece of machine and copy. I copy this man a copy, you know. If anybody else can tell me anything this brother ever implement for himself, anything he ever create, tell me one of his brainchild. Just give me something when him do. Don't tell me about road and house. No, Michael Manley and PJ and Portia argument them there. Give me something else. Just give me anything when him do. Okay. So when you hear me in a parliament I say, him are the best baby father for ideas. That it really mean, say, the PNP them create the idea and implement them. So I say, boy, if them want to put it out there, we put it out there. So if in a parliament I brag and boast how him are the best baby father for ideas. Hence that term. And that's where the line they come from, you know. That's where you get that line from. The best baby father for ideas. And you understand me? It was a bad choice of words, but that's where it come from. Best baby father for ideas. Because the PNP they make them and he claims them give birth to them. The Integrity Commission Act is one of them. And what the Integrity Commission Act require, Parliament to be of impeccable character. You understand me? Unquestionable integrity. We can't have no thief in the office like one time. I no matter if a PNP and Labour, right? Our country we are run. Right? We see how it works when we go overseas. Politicians are held accountable. In Jamaica, them are above the law. Total above the law, people. Don't you see that politicians in Jamaica are above the Jamaican law? Now, I'm going to read what this brother want. Boy, you can't make this up. Holness wants law prohibiting illicit enrichment declared unconstitutional. So he want that the part of the law cut out. And remember, you know, he take up this piece of machine, you know, and him implement it. And now the machine are hold him accountable. Me no want that part of the machine. They make me take off that section there. Give me the screwdriver, give me the spanner, give me the pliers, give me the torch. A torch, if I take a blow torch, go into the Integrity Commission Act. Something that is supposed to hold the country straight and politicians from, finger from going in your pocket as taxpayers. So, I could read about it, people. Share the work, please. Prime Minister Holness asked the Supreme Court to strike down a law used by the Integrity Commission, IC, to prohibit public officials for illicit enrichment, calling it unconstitutional. People never hear that. Jamaica, come here. What they are PNP and labor right? Come here to backside. Do you want that part of the law to be unconstitutional? Do you want them for free to criminally enrich themselves, Jamaicans? Then this is everybody ask for. You better not stop fight the law. Jamaica people, come here. This is a man that thinks say my Jesus or my king. Me don't know who will Jamaica give me now. Me don't know who will Jamaica give Mr. Smith. Out of the ear. The man want that part of the law to struck down. The part where, make it illegal to criminally enrich yourself. So he want to protect himself and protect the rest of 7. People want to see how I go on. Now, where the country I go with this? And we can stand up as Jamaicans as PNP and Labour right and say we are PNP and Labour right and say this is an attack on the country's democracy. We're going to go on like say we are PNP and Labour right and Labour right and PNP. And no, say this is a direct attack on democracy and the rule of law. How you going to tell the youth them to do certain things? How you going to talk to the youth them? How you going to tell the youth them? And them have the rest of the people them in the party believing everything is okay. Everything is all lined up and ready to go. Everybody think everything is okay. While I tell you them stop this and stop that, I want the people youth them live a certain way. Look what they're doing from top. First, we have the Constitutional Court. Why we have them in the government? Have the Constitutional Court in a court right now to keep Paula living in office or something like that. Right? The court rule, Constitutional Court rules. Right? The government have a problem with them own Constitutional Court. This brother always a fight everything, man, mash up all norms. This brother that's good for the country. The same brother come with the Samoa agreement. I'm to say legalize Obia. Everything that is wrong for the country. He won't even tell you to put on the gun and stop scamming and talk to them like a father. This brother want we. And me I tell why. Me ask you, Labour writer, if you're a Labour writer, watch my page. I'm gonna read this again, This is about country, and a man a party, because you can't get away with what you do, How you make this man slide? Prime Minister Holness has asked the Supreme Court to strike down a law used by the Integrity Commission to probe illicit officials for illicit enrichment, calling it unconstitutional. So in the one, the Integrity Commission and investigate criminals. It's like they don't want the investigators investigate criminals. It's like a free day for thief. So like get rid of the Integrity Commission then. I'll be right back, guys, after the short break. This is crazy. Tell me in the comment section if you believe that them should get rid of this law with a whole politician accountable, investigate them criminal enrichment, we call illicit enrichment. I'll be right back.
Prime Minister and Party Leader Andrew Holness.
Is what happened to borrowed money. Now, the other transaction which concerned me was the one where the account was opened at NCB. It was opened with no money in it. And I didn't know you could open an account with no money in it.
Is the man of integrity.
A couple of days later, there was a deposit of a little over $143,000 US, which came from SSL.
In full support
of the best Prime Minister.
And in the context of the discussions which we have been having about SSL, I believe that the Prime Minister needs to address this and explain how and why that money came into his account from SSL.
And I am very lucky
to have an outstanding Prime Minister.
It was deeply concerning to me, and I'm sure that it must be deeply concerning to all the people who not only lost money, but know people who lost money. And you know the number one concern is what happened to borrowed money.
A leader that we can be so proud of.
The transformation.
I just gave away 87 black tanks.
Is the best we have had.
This man thinks him is above the law, people. The brother think he's above the law. You know, see him kill the country, people. People look good no man. The integrity of the country gone over India gone think say him represent me, but him not represent me with this level of corruption, no brother. No, sir. No, sir. Right thing me I did. Me a big man. No, me no want no fish head. Me no want no contract. Me no want no money. Me no look nothing, brother. Me just want the country run right, brother. And we take it from anybody who can rise up and say, boy, I may have some integrity and run the country. I'm not thief from poor people. We good, you know, man. But all this is sitting here, brother. We can't go with this, brother. We can't go. Even if you're a labor writers or family. Or you going to have this apart of law struck down. So when Mark Golden come in there, then you can't thief them and nobody hold them accountable. Nobody can. I won't not say, man. What kind of nonsense this they might try to do? The man I try to, Lord God, to suit him selfish need. The man rather tear down the arm of government with an old politician accountable. Even the next man will come in after him. What him do is not to benefit Jamaicans. It's to benefit him and the rest of the 7 rats. What he's doing here is not benefiting Jamaica. Who it a benefit? Tell me who will benefit us. And who tell him say he must file taxes and be honest with Integrity Commission? Who tell him to get himself in this trouble? Everybody get themselves in trouble. They have to work it out. This man, people, he want the part of the law where investigation into illicit enrichment. He want that part to rip out. He want that to be unconstitutional. He want to take it out. That's way. Nobody must investigate them people. I want to understand what the hell is going on in my country named Jamaica. What the clout are going on there, so? I'm going to share them video, man, because I think a joke thing this in the morning. A ruling in the head of government's favor could affect investigations into 8 parliamentarians. So it's time to pull now. It's to see if the whole of them can get out of the news. Remember, you have more, you know. So I wonder if this thing I know is it will slow up the rest of the investigation. I hope that this not have nothing to do with the rest. I mean, do you think the judge is gonna side with them a type of criminality? And say yes to not to investigate for corruption? What kind of judge would that be? You no matter how much pay Mr. Simit give them judge there. You no matter how much pay them get. No judge should have side with them a type of nonsense. The man want the law probing illicit enrichment. He want it to be unconstitutional. I never hear nothing like this in my life. Because it hold him accountable. What about other parts of law that hold other people accountable? Why not cut them out? You know what, at this point, let out all the goddamn criminal out of prison to backside. Let out everybody. Let out all the criminal out of jail. Let them out. Let them out, because the people who's tasked with upholding the rule of law in Jamaica, they want to see that a tear down. They're taking a sledgehammer, going to it, because they're above the Jamaican law. Let out the goddamn criminals in the jail. Let out all of them, man. Let them out, man. Damn it. No law in Jamaica. Let them out. If you can't go sound a politician, let them out, man. It's a damn shame, people. This is disgraceful. What they are doing to the country. This is not good. Me not care if you're labor writers or people. Look for the good, no, man. Me just want you, as a true Jamaican, just look what me just read for you. Look what me I tell you about. Look what's in the media. Look, people. Look what the man is. What the illicit the IC come out and say the brother do. Whole heap of things and they go like say they want to forget what them people. Must I remind you what the IC said this man do? Let me hear the PNP interpret it. Just listen real good. Because them go and like say, it's just another day. And still, the man cannot be certified. Still not certified going 4 years now. Remember, we've gone out a year number 3, you know. Uncertified. Year number 3. A year number 4 now. Still cannot be certified. And we must be okay with this. Brother, cool there, man.
So there are 2 separate investigations that emanated from the Prime Minister's statutory declarations. I want you to discuss that first and tell us what were those two separate investigations. One relates to the omission of information for which the Director of Corruption Prosecution ruled, and then the second investigation was around illicit enrichment.
Well, I would say on the 4 accounts, there were 2 related to his parents put his name on, one with a former constituency manager and another one. Now, it is important to look at the detail. The Director of Investigation said he brought to Mr. Holness's attention on 3 occasions that his name was in fact on the accounts. And in spite of that, Mr. Holness did not declare those as part of his declaration. Secondly, and even more importantly, the Director of Investigation found that in 2 of those accounts, monies were flowing through the accounts from accounts solely controlled by Mr. Holness and 2 accounts solely controlled by Mr. Holness. So in essence, he's saying Mr. Holness said he knew nothing about these accounts, but funds are flowing in the region of millions of dollars. Deposits put in today, taken out the following week. 2 accounts controlled solely by him. So the question is, was Mr. Holness being truthful when he said, well, it's my parents' account and I don't know anything about it?
Hear them damn thing. Let me remind you, Wagwan, man. Let me remind you, man.
This is actually one of the more disturbing features, because what the investigation of the Integrity Commission has revealed is that funds were used from a charity. It's called Positive Foundation, Positive Jamaica Foundation, a charity which, by definition, would have charitable purposes. And some funds in the region of approximately $32,000 US dollars were diverted to pay for a bond in the name of Mr. Holness.
Or his company, his personal company.
And I believe at some point it may have been either in his or his personal holding company, which he owns 100%. And it remained in that form for the life of the bond until it was called. And it was only after the bond had been redeemed and that transaction was now, in a sense, extinct.
Is it reasonable
closed? That, just allow me to finish, that upon questioning by the Director of Investigation that an attempt was made to repay that charitable foundation. So approximately 4 years had elapsed when the funds from the charitable foundation had been used to partially pay for a bond in the name of or for the benefit of Mr. Holness.
And the interest payments on the bond went into him or his personal company's account. And it's only when the Integrity Commission itself looked into this thing and said, hey, but some of the funding for this, $32,000 US of the $94,000 US cost of the bond, came from a charity with which Mr. Holness is very closely associated and is a director. That the necessary rearrangements of the thing were done and the money was returned to the charity. So for several years, he declared that bond as being his or his company's, and he received the payments under that bond.
Let me go a little further. Honest also want the court to gut and specified provisions of the 2017 Integrity Commission Act. Remember, him bill, and the PNP bill, him implement it. He go take up this thing when can't manage on him head, and now it hold him accountable. He might run and hide from it and a duck. So he might take a sledgehammer, go into it. So when the PNP come in power, there's nothing left to hold them accountable. Can destroy accountability because it have to do with him and them other 7 in the office. And it seems as if I try to cover for them people. And what am I try to do? You don't think the world has seen him? What am I try to do, people? You might not think that the world has seen him. Holness also want the court to gut specified unspecified provisions of the 2017 Integrity Commission Act, given the lack of fairness, impartiality, and independence in the exercise of the functions of divisions and the commission as presently structured. Why? The man a tear up everything, people. And we as Jamaicans must not just stand up idly by and watch a man try to tear up the Integrity Commission to hold them corrupt self in what you, people. This is what you call insulating yourself. The man a try to build a wall around him to protect himself from the law. But everybody must go to jail. Everybody else must go to prison. Everybody must get a lockup without charges. Violate the constitutional rights. What the man do all the time. Those two are among 21 declarations or orders that the Holness is seeking in an application to the Supreme Court to have an IC investigation report into his financial affairs rejected. You hear that, people? Nobody must investigate my finances. You want that rejected as unlawful and unfair. The IC's report dated August 30, 2024 was released by the House of Representatives on September 17. I believe that the tabling of the report was intended to embarrass and cause harm to me, and as such, cause harm to me. I believe that the tabling of the report was intended to embarrass and cause harm to me, and as such as made for an improper purpose and in bad faith to prejudice and harm me. me. Look here, man. Nobody never tell us if you get in trouble with the tax people, them. Grew up, collect a pair ball of wine. Me no see no strength to show you so. Stand up like a man, and if you are innocent, would you want investigation to go on to prove that you are innocent, bro? You know you're not guilty, so you're going like you're guilty, so. Want to the dance, and you have the whole army of idiots in a parliament a fight for you. Eh? Disgusting. I drive around the world like say you represent I and I. You don't represent me at this stage now, sir. First time I used to say, yeah, regardless of what I go on, you represent I and I. But you don't represent me. No, sir. This is not representation. Me. No, sir. You can't represent me. No, sir. No. No, sir. The man a ball about me. I cry. He said, alleging further that it sought to impute criminal and unethical conduct to me and the other applicants. You hear that? Basically, he make them look bad. Nobody telling us, say, we have illicit enrichment, but you can't show for. Nobody. Look how rich you be, bro. Eh? What you want to do? It's like you want to forget what you're doing, brother. You want to forget what you did. Eh?
What happened to bold money? Now, the other transaction which concerned me was the one where the account was opened at NCB. It was opened with no money in it. And I didn't know you could open an account with no money in it. A couple of days later, there was a deposit of a little over $143,000 US, which came from SSL. And in the context of the discussions which we have been having about SSL, I believe that the Prime Minister needs to address this and explain how and why that money came into his account from SSL. It was deeply concerning to me, and I'm sure that it must be deeply concerning to all the people who not only lost money, but know people who lost money. And you know the number one concern is what happened to bold money.
You know, from time to time, I like to play Miss Diane Jackson because she come tell us some things about the with a law mind, knowledge about the law, knowledge of the law. Come to me and explain a little bit more about this report, IC report. Look what you have to say about it.
Said this is a final video. We'll be looking at the discussion of findings. Let me just say a couple of things. Now, one, I notice people have been saying, Dion, why aren't you doing some analysis? Why aren't you telling us what you think? That's not what this particular series was about. Here, I'm just putting on videos, information that's in this big document that I know a lot of people won't get to read, even though they may want to know what is in it. So this particular series was purely an informational video. All right. So I do get you on to hear, what do I think of this? What do I think of that? I'll be making some additional videos that go into that. But this set of videos is purely informational. I do realize that it may not be useful for some people. Some people may not be interested in that, and that's fine.
Can you look a
Because
piece
I
side
do all
people?
kinds
Tell me
of
if I hear
videos in
good.
which I go into different things. All right. So
When I hear me
that
good?
said, let's get to it. So the director starts by looking at what he calls facts that have been established and are not in issue. In other words, nobody now quarrel about this. This is what it is. So these are the following facts he looks at. That Mr. Holness was required to file a statutory declaration for the year 2021 and other relevant years. Mr. Holness did file those statutory declarations. Particular bank accounts were omitted, left off of those statutory declarations. C, Mr. Holness has/had financial interest in 3 companies, Imperium, Positive Media, and Estate Bridge, with sole ownership of Imperium. He's the only owner of Imperium, and he still has control over the finances of Imperium. Between January 2021 and December 23, 2022, Mr. Holness was the sole signatory on the 2 bank accounts owned by Positive Media, both of which were opened by him. Mr. Holness's son, Andrew Matthew Holness, replaced him as signature on those accounts on December 23, 2022. Between January 11, 2021 and November 15, 2022, Mr. Holness, as CEO, Managing Director, Executive Director of Estate Bridge, was the sole individual authorized to act on its behalf in respect of its NCB Capital Markets account. On November 15, 2022, Mr. Holness was removed as a signatory on all of those companies' accounts on the basis that Imperium, that's a company of which he is sole owner, was no longer a majority shareholder. Nil tax returns were filed for those companies for the years 2021 and 2022. So those are the facts that have been established that are not in dispute. So the director goes on to look at questions raised that he says have to be determined. A, whether Mr. Holness's omission of bank accounts from statutory declarations amounts to making false statements in those statutory declarations contrary to the Integrity Commission Act. So let me just say that I'm not going to be going into this any further because of the fact that the Director of Corruption Prosecutions has ruled that there is insufficient evidence to lay any charges against Mr. Holness in relation to this particular issue. You can go back to my very first video on the summary and the conclusions and recommendations, and I do go into that. So I'm not going to go into that further in this video. Another question he raises, whether having regard to Mr. Holness's income and liabilities, he owns assets disproportionate to his lawful income, contrary to the Corruption Prevention Act. C, whether the nil returns filed by the companies in which Mr. Holness has an interest breach the Income Tax Act. D, whether there were any irregularities relating to a loan of $50 million obtained by Mr. Holness from Barita Investments. And E, whether the operations and financing of Positive Media, Imperium, and Estate Bridge and Green Emerald give rise to any concerns. So issue 1 is that issue of the false statements in statutory declarations. So he goes through what he looked at and why it is he referred the matter to Director of Corruption Prosecution. As I mentioned, I'm not going to be going into this because this matter has been concluded insofar as the Director of Corruption Prosecutions has ruled that no charges be laid. So we move on to issue 2, illicit enrichment. And he said he looked at the following. Now, he looked at the law in terms of what illicit enrichment says. Where a public servant owns assets disproportionate to their lawful earnings, and if they're requested to do so, fails to provide any or sufficient justification for how they came by that assets. So you're talking about somebody who works in the public service, who owns a bag of things that they don't seem to have been able to buy based on how much they earn. If they're asked to explain how they manage to buy the bag of things and they can't explain it, or they don't have a sufficient explanation, they can be held to have committed the offense of illicit enrichment. All right. He then goes into how you prove illicit enrichment, which is by way of a mathematical calculation, and that the person in question, as I mentioned, hasn't given an explanation or a satisfactory explanation, and that explanation has to be supported by evidence. So I'm going to go down now to what he says are the facts. Now, the director says he was not in a position to determine illicit enrichment using that mathematical formula, which is called source and application. He said to do so, the director would need to determine the total amount of funds applied towards the acquisition of wealth or assets or saved over the relevant period. He said this was not possible, as the director was not provided with a schedule of Mr. Holness's expenses for the period. He says Mr. Holness was asked to give that schedule of expenses, but refused to do so. Now, Mr. Holness has said that that is not true. The director has directed us here to Appendix 5. So I'm just going to go down to Appendix 5 so we can see what is there. Okay, so I am not seeing an Appendix 5. So I do see an Appendix 4. So this seems to have been an error, because Appendix 4 says income and expenditure statement sent to Mr. Holness. And that seems to be what the director is talking about here. And this Appendix 4 is on page 169. So that appears to be a clerical error there. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. The report goes on to say, additionally, the director would need to ascertain the total amount of funds that Mr. Holness was able to put towards the acquisition of wealth or assets or accumulated as savings that have come from known lawful sources. He says the questions around the operations and funding of the 3 companies with which Mr. Holness is associated will also need to be resolved. Intercompany transactions among the companies were found to be as follows. A, total deposits of over 473 million, and B, total withdrawals of over 427 million.
My God.
He says the interplay between Positive Media and Imperium is of particular concern. Deposits totaling over 52 million were made to Positive Media's accounts over the period. Breakdown, Imperium 51.3 million and Positive Media 1.5 million. Over the same period, withdrawals were made from the accounts of Positive Media in the sum of 71.7 million. The breakdown of the withdrawals is as follows. Imperium 70.1 million, Positive Media intra-account transfers 1.6 million.
Tell me more.
A total of 18.8 million more was withdrawn from Positive Media accounts than was deposited. The director says he was, however, able to perform a net worth analysis based on that information. And this is a net worth analysis. He says the majority of Mr. Holness's assets are held in Imperium, a company that he indicates was established for that purpose. It can therefore be inferred that the assets, liabilities, and income of Imperium are those of Mr. Holness, as the company is wholly owned by him. The assets, liabilities, and income held between Mr. Holness and Imperium must therefore be combined for the purposes of this investigation. B, before combining the assets, liabilities, and income of Mr. Holness and Imperium, it's useful to examine the assets, liabilities, and income held in Mr. Holness's name. When the assets, liabilities, and income held together in Mr. Holness's name for the years 2021 and 2022 are taken together for the purpose of computing his net worth, meaning how much he owns, assets minus liabilities. So the amount you own minus how much you may owe is your net worth. And he says a result of negative 10.4 million and negative 5.3 million are returned respectively. So for the years 2021 and 2022, there was no unexplained growth in relation to Mr. Holness's net worth. He then looks at the combined assets and liabilities and income of Mr. Holness together with Imperium, which is a company that he owns. So he says now the director merged both sets of assets, liabilities, and income. He made further adjustments to correct for fluctuations in exchange rates and the changes in value of assets due to appreciation. A mathematical calculation showed changes in Mr. Holness's net worth of negative 1.1 million between 2020 and 2021 and 1.9 million between 2021 and 2022. In other words, there is no unexplained growth in Mr. Holness / Imperium when you take both of them together in their net worth that was detected for the year 2021. There is, however, unexplained growth of 1.9 million for the year 2022. The director says he then invited Mr. Holness to provide an explanation. Mr. Holness's explanation was provided over a period of several months between August 2023 and 2024. The director reiterates his inability to proceed with illicit enrichment calculations in respect of Mr. Holness's assets, liabilities, and income, the unresolved questions of connected companies, and the absence of a schedule of his personal expenses over that period. He was asked to provide this information by May 31, 2024. Mr. Holness wrote to the commission on July 16, 2024 and said this: on the advice of my attorneys, I have complied with the Integrity Commission Act by submitting the required information in the form. This was done when I filed my 2021 previous and subsequent declarations. Further, subject to the objections sent by my attorneys for your attention, I have responded to the questions that have been asked. I adopt and incorporate all of the objections, including that at the commencement of the investigations, no allegation of corruption was put to me. Mr. Holness says, in addition, I was not told, nor was it established that my assets are disproportionate to my lawful earnings. In response to the inquiry as to the reason the matter was referred to investigation, I was told some new matters had arisen. However, I was never told.
Man broke the law 24/7, brother. Man broke the law. People, let me go to the short break. I'll be right back.
I hear man talk all kind of lie. Oh, 20 million and 28 million. Lie. Me not take no salary increase. So my salary is what it was before. And I tell you something, I feel like just keep back to. Because he's a proud man, you know. Me don't like people tell lie for me. I don't want you to come to me with that foolishness, you know. You elect a prime minister, and as a prime minister run the country. It is time we learn to hold our leaders accountable for their actions and stop making excuses for them. Stop making excuses. Otherwise, go elect the people who really run in the country. And I don't want labor rights carry that stupid argument. Hold the people you elect accountable and stop making excuses for them.
People, them go like we forgot. We must forget what the man do in our office. All them parents' name a card and account. This are them things I should not talk about a prime minister. Listen,
this is actually one of the more disturbing features, because what the investigation of the Integrity Commission has revealed is that funds were used from a charity. It's called Positive Foundation, Positive Jamaica Foundation, a charity which, you know, by definition would have charitable purposes. And some funds in the region of approximately $32,000 US were diverted to pay for a bond in the name of Mr. Holness.
Or his company, his personal company.
And I believe at some point it may have been either in his or his personal holding company, which he owns 100%. And it remained in that form for the life of the bond until it was called. And it was only after the bond had been redeemed and that transaction was now, in a sense, extinct.
Is it reasonable?
Closed. That, just allow me to finish, that upon questioning by the Director of Investigation that an attempt was made to repay that charitable foundation. So approximately 4 years had elapsed when the funds from the charitable foundation had been used to partially pay for a bond in the name of or for the benefit of Mr. Holness.
And the interest payments on the bond went into him or his personal company's account. And it's only when the Integrity Commission itself looked into this thing and said, hey, but some of the funding for this, 32,000 US of the 94,000 US cost of the bond, came from a charity with which Mr. Holness is very closely associated and is a director. That the necessary rearrangements of the thing were done and the money was returned to the charity. So for several years, he declared that bond as being his or his company's, and he received the payments under that bond.
So people, may I move on a little bit, but watch this out now. Watch this. I see yet to hear from Tax Administration of Jamaica and request for further review of probe into PM's financials. So you look at the Tax Administration of Jamaica working with government. Well, I mean, hard to say. When the Tax Administration $500 million spent in an empty building, Tax Administration building, I know you're not probing to that, and we don't know who the Tax Administration have contract with, the government have contract with, who own them building. They might look for me and say, we mind their own business and we are taxpayer, we are pay them feet. People are violent. Yeah, man, this is not government, man. I tell you already, this is like a criminal organization. This is not government. It just appear like a criminal organization in every form. Tax Administration of Jamaica has not acknowledged or responded to the Integrity Commission, IC, 2 weeks after the anti-corruption body referred an investigative report into the assets and financials of Prime Minister Andrew Holness. Probe. So them give them the documents for them to probe. Then they'll get back to them yet. In an email response to the Gleaner on Tuesday, the Commission confirmed that the report was officially referred to Tax Administration of Jamaica on September 18, following the recommendation of its Director of Investigation, Kevin Stevenson. Further, the IC said it has received no confirmation or acknowledgement from the Tax Administration of Jamaica on the matter. When contacted by the Gleaner, Tax Administration of Jamaica Commissioner General Ainsley Powell said the entity would not confirm whether it received an official communique from the IC and if it had responded. So Powell argued that the referral is for someone specific and is directly for a taxpayer. Prime Minister said Powell on Tuesday insisted that confirmation of the referral would breach legislation that govern Tax Administration of Jamaica. So you understand what I go on. So things are fall up, and a call up, and you know what I go on, Holness told Parliament that the company with which he is directly associated is compliant and up to date with its tax filings. On Monday, Holness applied to the Supreme Court to have the report into his financial affairs rejected as unlawful and unfair and premise on an unconstitutional law. People are implement it into law. So they want to fight him on a law. You can't make this up. People can't make this up. Did you know that the AG, the Attorney General of his sign off on this and all, team people them and all that? People, the man have a problem with him own law. The man take a sledgehammer going to his own law or implement for his own damn selfish reason. You can't make this up. You can't make this up, people. This is another leader. I want this here. We want to understand what I go on. And the part where here, the PNP them talk about money in the parents' account. How are we going to get away from all this?
So there are two separate investigations that emanated from the Prime Minister's statutory declarations. I want you to discuss that first and tell us what were those two separate investigations. One relates to the omission of information for which the Director of Corruption Prosecution ruled, and then the second investigation was around illicit enrichment.
Well, I would say on the 4 accounts, there were 2 related to his parents put his name on, one with a former constituency manager and another one. Now, it's important to look at the detail. The Director of Investigation said he brought to Mr. Holness's attention on 3 occasions that his name was in fact on the accounts. And in spite of that, Mr. Holness did not declare those as part of his declaration. Secondly, and even more importantly, the Director of Investigation found that in 2 of those accounts, monies were flowing through the accounts from accounts solely controlled by Mr. Holness and 2 accounts solely controlled by Mr. Holness. So in essence, he's saying Mr. Holness said he knew nothing about these accounts, but funds are flowing in the region of millions of dollars. Deposits put in today, taken out the following week. 2 accounts controlled solely by him. So the question is, was Mr. Holness being truthful when he said, well, it's my parents' account and I don't know anything about it?
Hold on. No, me have to play that again. This is parents, you know. Come just watch the clip when in a parliament. I say him don't know nothing about it because my parents then put it in use it, so he never report it because he not use it, and him say him parents open my account for what 1975. So hold on there. Him have nothing to do with it, people. Me go find the clip and play it. He say him parents open the account where like from about 1975. Him don't know nothing about it. In a parliament, you know, people. Let go hear what I go on.
So there are 2 separate investigations that emanated from the Prime Minister's statutory declarations. I want you to discuss that first and tell us what were those 2 separate investigations. One relates to the omission of information for which the Director of Corruption Prosecution ruled, and then the second investigation was around illicit enrichment.
Well, I would say on the 4 accounts, there were 2 related to his parents put his name on, one with a former constituency manager and another one. Now, it's important to look at the detail. The Director of Investigation said he brought to Mr. Holness's attention on 3 occasions that his name was in fact on the accounts. And in spite of that, Mr. Holness did not declare those as part of his declaration. Secondly, and even more importantly, the Director of Investigation found that in 2 of those accounts, monies were flowing through the accounts from accounts solely controlled by Mr. Holness and 2 accounts solely controlled by Mr. Holness. So in essence, he's saying Mr. Holness said he knew nothing about these accounts, but funds are flowing in the region of millions of dollars. Deposits put in today, taken out the following week. 2 accounts controlled solely by him. So the question is, was Mr. Holness being truthful when he said, well, it's my parents' account and I don't know anything about it?
People are beer corruption. So the people them when them like a handpick people them in a tax administration of Jamaica. Like everybody corrupt. Remember Carlos always tell you about. You see, a criminal organization, you have to have people to function in every direction. I tell you guys all the time on this platform. You have to control the DPP, police commissioner, minister of national security, immigration officer. You have to control judges, top police officer who look over this and look over here. So I saw criminal organization work. I remember KD night tell we say, this brother alone couldn't pull off all of this. Couldn't do it by himself. Yeah? So when you look at so, may I see what going based on the reluctance of the tax administration to embark on, I even answer the IC. May I say, oh, okay. And that's how you go there, so come here, hear KD voice in my ears, Lord. He must say, this brother alone couldn't pull off this thing here. So are we seeing where it looked like people from the tax administration of Jamaica was working with this brother here to make him get away with so much things and not paying taxes all these years? Could we say that? What about the bank? Could we say that the bank can work with him? All these accounts without dollar in it. Yeah? You don't believe me? We could listen one more time.
Prime Minister and Party Leader Andrew Holness.
Is what happened to borrowed money. Now, the other transaction which concerned me was the one where the account was opened at NCB. It was opened with no money in it. And I didn't know you could open an account with no money in it.
Is the man of integrity.
A couple of days later, there was a deposit of a little over 143,000 US dollars, which came from SSL.
In full support
of the best Prime Minister.
And in the context of the discussions which we have been having about SSL, I believe that the Prime Minister needs to address this and explain how and why that money came into his account from SSL.
And I'm very lucky
to have an outstanding Prime Minister.
It was deeply concerning to me, and I'm sure that it must be deeply concerning to all the people who not only lost money, but know people who lost money. And the number one concern is what happened to borrowed money.
A leader that we can be so proud of.
The transformation. I just gave away 87 black tanks.
Is the best we have had.
People, these are some very serious allegations against the PM. Remember, in any other life, you'd have to step down pending investigation. You could not come on so come tell me, say you want if you rip up the law, if you hold you accountable. You want an investigation, but you want to dismantle the tools that they use to investigate you and the others. You look funny good. You are under investigation. Now you are going to the judge, the court. Things that the judge and we pay and get double pay. Day a day. You get like 100% raise or more, you get the judge. And something like that, people. So you think you can go to these judge for rescue. But then for rip out that page out of the Integrity Commission Act, where you implement. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. It was there when I investigate Bunting, right? It was there when I investigate Vaz, ain't it? It was there when I investigate Montague and others who both PNP and Labour right. That part of the act was there. So why should anybody take it out just now? Why? Why the Integrity Commission since 2016 been using that part of the act all this time? But when it comes to you now, you don't want it, rip it up. People, see some hypocrisy going on so. See like a rat now want to get catch. See what going on so. Yes, it's Mr. Finger Smith now want to get catch so. What the doctor Smith? This don't look good. Embarrassing that the man want illicit enrichment. The part that the thing for it to be unconstitutional, no investigation into illicit enrichment. Anybody else over there, Labour and PNP, do you believe in this? Do you want this? Holness wants law probing illicit enrichment declared unconstitutional. Holness wants law investigating illicit enrichment declared unconstitutional. People, that you know want? Want to subscribe to that? Anybody else as a true Jamaican? Good God. They don't want to stop thief. My God. People, thank you for watching this video. As usual, I am a student in a class. Please make sure your comments make sense in every sentence. If for the first time on this platform, very first time, and you like what I go on over here, you like to make this channel your home, just go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell So you can come live when they come live, so you can comment and you can read the comment. I'll be going back to read all the comments. You see me? Don't forget to like and share people to some people on WhatsApp and subscribe and what they like, they lick up some like. And don't forget, me have my Zelle, my Cash App, and the PayPal up there. If you wish to, you know what to do. Thank you so much for everybody who support this channel. Everybody who tune in daily. Thank you so much, guys. Enough things are going on in Jamaica, and we have to be on it. We have to, people have to be informed. A lot of things are going on this channel. They're not going to get it on the regular news station because these people, they are scripted. Them come out and they speak, what the channel wanted to hear. And how it look in Jamaica is like most of these channels are station or media houses are bought out and they're not working for the people. Sad. This brother right here on the other hand think he's above the law. The law that to hold everybody else accountable. Even nobody want it. Let's go to the court, go see if a judge can dash it away. And again, my appeal to the PNP that set up here, I mean, I like how it look. That is the Electoral Commission. It's an Electoral Office Commissioner, and the Prime Minister. Seems as if they have a very good relationship. Look nice, eh? But like this when people get along, live good together, and look like brothers and stuff like that, Yeah, man. So, PNP have one in their back pocket. May I tell you, a long time, I want them, PNP is quite comfortable with the Electoral Commission office, the brother office. Look at so. Nice setup, not true. All right, may I go through people. I just have to show you that on my way out. Thank you so much for watching my video. My name is Jamaican Carlos. Talk to you later.
I hear man talk all kind of lie. Oh, 20 million and 28 million. Lie! Me not take no salary increase. So my salary is what it was before. And I tell you something, I feel like just keep back to. Because he's a proud man, Me don't like people tell lie for me.
The government, because the economy is growing, the government is now giving young people who are registered in heart approximately $150 each month to help them with the bus fare and help them with the lunch money. So nobody has any excuse not to go to school to learn a skill because you're getting help with the bus fare and help with the lunch money as well. If that is not transformational, I don't know what is. So if that is not transformational, I don't know what is.
Back is not supposed to come and dance.
No, back up, you can't come. Back supposed to come out of the car and go straight in a police. You must see. Where they are?
Come on, man, we're not fool.
At the 8th election, I run. I never see this yet. Oh, joking thing on the pan. See if you have box in there, any feeling where you want to put your box in there, put the president officer, carry them out. I want to know about
Junior.
Why not?
Come here,
Diane, where you there?
I go for box to that, sir.
Them police, yeah. The presiding officer go park. Me never see boxer ground, boxer going in a EOJ. Me downstairs. Me no want nobody touch me. Me want to box them. Go in the office. Me not supposed to box them that ground.
Yeah, get that.
Me not in a this.
Yeah, let's try to get to go on. Go, but if you fool, you
box them. Come on, box them from me. No bad men here box them. No answer. And the tell council don't send me down without the
Prime Minister and Party Leader Andrew Holness
is the man of integrity, love.
To move a no confidence motion in Gordon House, in the House of Representatives. I was prevented from doing so on what I regard to be a spurious basis, a basis that cannot hold water. The basis that was put forward was that the matters on which my motion was based are now sub judice. In other words, because the Prime Minister has apparently sought judicial review of certain matters arising from what the Integrity Commission has decided in relation to his matter. However, my motion is not dealing with the substance of that report, but is dealing with his own conduct as Prime Minister. And I wish to read the motion now so you can hear it. Whereas there is a ministerial code of conduct in place from 2002 that governs the conduct of members of the cabinet, and whereas the Prime Minister did not inform the people of Jamaica that he was being investigated by the Integrity Commission from as far back as August 2023 for illicit enrichment, and whereas the concealment of this information by the Prime Minister is a breach of the Ministerial Code of Conduct that guided the Prime Minister in removing from office ministers serving in the cabinet over which he presided, and whereas the annual reports of the Integrity Commission for 22-23 and for 23-24 stated that several members of Parliament, initially 6 and then 8, were under investigation for illicit enrichment, but none had come forward to disclose that he or she was under investigation. And whereas the Integrity Commission's investigation report on the 17th September 2024 tabled in Parliament named the Prime Minister as being under investigation for illicit enrichment. And whereas the Prime Minister, as Chairman of Cabinet, instructed members of Cabinet not to divulge the name of any member under investigation for illicit enrichment, contrary to the spirit of the Ministerial Code of Conduct, and whereas the actions of the Prime Minister have caused and continue to cause severe damage to the trust necessary for good order and respect for public office, be it resolved that this Honourable House condemns the Prime Minister for not maintaining ethical standards of transparency and openness in government. Secondly, censures the Prime Minister for his acts of covering up and concealment of the names, including his own, of those members of the Cabinet and or Parliament of which he was and may still be aware, but has kept them in positions of influence in the Cabinet with the effect of further undermining public trust in the institutions of government, and declares that the actions of the Prime Minister have severely undermined his credibility and trustworthiness, and that he no longer enjoys the confidence of this House. That was the motion that was to be put forward today and hopefully debated next week. We did not want it debated the same day that it was tabled. The Prime Minister is not here in Jamaica. That would not be right or proper. However, we were not allowed to proceed with the tabling of the motion because the Speaker herself had removed herself because the matter affected her husband, and the Deputy Speaker ruled that the motion was improperly brought in breach of the standing orders, relying on the sub judice rule, and so the motion will not go forward. And we think that that is an abuse of the rules of Parliament, and no confidence motions have a very high place in our constitutional arrangements. If a no confidence motion is passed in Parliament, the Governor-General has to dissolve Parliament and call elections. So that is in section, I think, 64 of the Constitution, subsection 5. So for them to block the opposition from bringing a motion on the alleged basis that the matter is sub judice is really, in my view, a bad and sad day for our democracy. Again, it's an example of freedom of speech, freedom of association, our democratic principles being undermined by the misuse of power by the majority in Parliament. It's a very serious matter, and that is why we asked the media to come and hear what we had to say. Thank you.
Prime Minister and Party Leader Andrew Holness.
Is what happened to Bold Money. Now, the other transaction which concerned me was the one where the account was opened at NCB. Mm-hmm. It was opened with no money in it. And I didn't know you could open an account with no money in it.
Is the man of integrity.
A couple of days later, there was a deposit of a little over $143,000 US, which came from SSL.
In full support
of the best Prime Minister.
And in the context of the discussions which we have been having about SSL, I believe that the Prime Minister needs to address this and explain how and why that money came into his account from SSL.
And I am very lucky
to have an outstanding Prime Minister.
It was deeply concerning to me, and I'm sure that it must be deeply concerning to all the people who not only lost money, but know people who lost money. And you know the number one concern is what happened to borrowed money.
A leader that we can be so proud of.
The transformation. I just gave away 87 black tanks.
Is the best we have had.